Order. This is the May 21st, 2020 meeting of the Downers Grove Township Board of Trustees. As with the last 2 months, we are teleconferencing via Zoom with three of the trustees, Art Donner, myself, Clerk Grimsby are here, along with Al Alonji, our counselor, and guests, Greg Bolts, our assessor. At this time, I'd like to join everybody to join me, stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Clerk Grimsby, can you call the roll, please?
Trustee Donner?
Present.
Trustee Ferguson?
Present.
Trustee Kelly?
Present.
Trustee Vanderlaan?
Here.
Supervisor Toman?
Here, we have a quorum. Next on the agenda is public comment. Any resident may speak on any township issue in general. We had no one sign up and we had no emails, so I'll take that as they're all busy doing something else. And we'll move on to, I will make a motion to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting from April 16, 2020 as presented.
I'll second those.
Is there any discussion on this item? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any against? The motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Mark, this assessor, I think, wants to make a comment or two.
Oh, okay.
I just
Go right
wanted,
ahead.
thank you. I just
We'll
wanted.
back up.
Okay. I didn't know exactly where the assessor report goes in, but I just want to give you all a report on what's happening. Obviously, we've had a lot go on with the executive order and the pandemic, with COVID stuff going on. So I wanted to just kind of come in and let everybody know what's happening on the assessor side of the business of our township. We have the executive order that came out, late in the week of March 16th. I want to kind of walk you through a little bit of historical of what's happened over there. We worked over the weekend, that weekend following the executive order. Thank you, Attorney Alonji. I worked diligently with us to put a telecommunity policy in place so that we would be able to start the following week with a policy to manage the process in place to be able to have our staff working on a remote basis, since really we were deemed as a essential business because we support the residential real estate industry. So team members were pretty much operational within a couple of days next week to be able to fully operate on a remote basis. Currently and throughout the process, we've had 2 to 3 people working out of the office who felt more comfortable working out of the office based on whatever they had with computer setups at home and things like that. But they do maintain social distancing within the office. We have had there were no walk-ins or we've kept the meetings in the office. Everything's been handled with calls, emails, and mail are handled remotely, through responding with calls or emails, and likewise. We typically have been able to handle almost everything within the 24 hours in which we got the inquiry from a resident. Initial call volume and email volume was kind of high the first week with tax bills going out. They were mailed out April 30th. So that first week, in the first 4 days, we had about slightly more than 250 calls in the first 4 days. We were able to get back to everybody. That doesn't include email traffic, but we were able to get back to everybody with typically within the 24 hours. Most of them was done that same day they came in. Field staff, when they go out on inspections, we're doing strictly external inspections. I do not have anybody going into homes at this point because, again, it's hard to limit contact when you're going inside homes. So we're limiting our stuff, and we're working with municipalities to get permits and things like that to be able to do things that are more internal type stuff as we move forward to things. The processing of the work is actually going quite well. We started getting ready for closing, and I believe we're actually ahead of schedule to be able to close the perks earlier than we did in the last couple of years. We closed in November. And we're actually looking ahead of that for this year. I can't tell you exactly when it's going to be because I am reliant on information from other agencies and stuff like that for all my information, but I'm pretty confident now we're at this point to say we'll be ahead of last year. I'll be able to keep you all posted as to what it looks like. We are exploring curbside service coming up because there's going to be senior freeze forms that are going to be mailed out from the county sometime in the near future. The DuPage County Assessor Association which is the 9 assessors working in conjunction with the county, have been in constant contact with each other, and then we're working with the county as to when those are gonna go out. Obviously, we're all concerned with the seniors being the most at-risk population to the virus, to the pandemic and the COVID, because that's what they all tell us. I'm not a doctor, an assessor, but we're worried about that because, and that's, obviously, this is gonna be a major mailing to go out to the seniors, and seniors tend to operate, you take whatever they get on it immediately, typically. So we're working with the county, we've been in contact with the county throughout. They would have typically mailed those out already. They've kind of held the mailing a little while because they're not actually due until October. But they want to get those processed because once townships start closing, volume kicks up for the county. So we've been working directly with the county on trying to manage that process, and we'll continue to work with them and try to time everything so we can make sure we serve the seniors. But we are exploring curbside service, and we've been working with Attorney Alonji to make sure what kind of risk we have on that from a legal matter as well, to make sure that we're trying to make sure we're protecting both our staff and the people that are coming in. But we think that might be a way that we can look at that. I'll keep you posted. Obviously, Mark, we'll talk to you when we talk the physical stuff, so we make sure that we got all the social distancing we'll have to deal with and everything else. But we've been looking at that for several weeks now to figure out the best way. You'll see that we've put in some plexiglass dividers in the window in our office here already. We've ordered them. I don't have it. I should have probably pulled the window up in case you want to look at it. But we've got that installed already now to make sure we're doing some other stuff within a couple of work areas to make sure we're dividing areas so that if anybody's within 6 feet, when they do come back to work, that they'll be distanced with plexiglass and stuff. So we're pretty much, our office is pretty close to being set up already to be able to do it at what time we can do it. I think overall, the team has been fantastic. They've really rolled with everything that we put in front of them. They adapted right away, and again, I can't tell you, I couldn't be more proud of what they've adapted to stuff, and the work they're getting done. The responses we're getting from residents have been, we've got lots of positive emails from people, again, even with their calling to complain about or to inquire about their assessments and the tax bill associated with it. But a lot of comments will be, hey, I'm not happy with my tax bill, but thank you so much for the service I got, and this is people doing this remotely and everything else. So I just want to let y'all know what's going on, but we are fully, set up for remote operation and have been within days. And again, Al, I can't thank you so much. I know when I sent that first email, hey, I know it's Saturday, but hey, we got to get this done. He stepped up immediately and helped us. We were ready by Monday morning, so it was greatly appreciated.
Okay, our building is laid out in better shape than most townships in that you guys have a counter facing the hallway where the public can access, and all the other doors can be secured so that they can't wander around. We're kind of lucky that the seniors are all, at least looks like they're traveling with masks to use when they're in public. But, so your call whether you want us to open the front doors and let them come in. My concern would be the spacing part. We can do what some other businesses have done and X out the floor, like 6 feet apart, and do that. If you want to go ahead and make the hallway available for people, we can put chairs 6 feet apart down the hall too, so that they know where that is and they can have a seat until they're called. And then we've got the masks and the eyeglasses and the gloves so that if they have to receive anything or like that, if any of the employees are uncomfortable, we have the supplies that they're more than welcome to.
Thank you very much. And I think one of the logistical challenges, you've got volume, people coming in, Andy's got people coming in, we've got people coming in, knowing where to put those 6-foot demarcations are going to be a little challenging for us and stuff like that, so that's just something we're going to have to figure out.
It's a tough one. I think maybe Kim will still do by appointment only, like call-ins, and for right now, we're kind of over the hump on LIHEAP. We can probably do only by appointment too, and our door is much closer to the front door, and we can work it from there. But we'll see how it plays out. The governor seems like he's of a mind now to accelerate the process of opening the state back up. So I don't know where you're going to be on staffing, but I think potentially on June 1st I'll be having the staff in the supervisor's office just working their regular hours again.
Yeah,
And with the volume that you're probably going to have with the senior stuff.
That's the challenge with knowing that you could have a huge volume. It could be very challenging to keep it if the door's open. So we're going to kind of just play it by ear and see what happens. If we do the curbside, that'll be the ability to hold the flow there and have us go to them. So if we could, you know, and if we can get, like, just thanks for having this, if you got a stack of that, we could get them over.
Yeah, yeah.
We get a piece of them over to our
Not an
office,
issue.
you know, we'll get them to Rita or Terry or whatever, but we've had a good, it's worked out really well because, you know, with the, you know, people have just been really fantastic with working with it. They've been very flexible and, you know, we've been happy with it, and like I say, it's been a challenge because it's been a whole unique working experience for everybody, and, you know, to try to do it, but the production has been off the charts. Like I say, to be ahead of schedule, to close the books earlier than we've done in the past in the middle of all this, you know, Anthony and myself have just been like, wow, this is great, and the response from the residents has been fantastic. The other side I'd like to tell you is that we got our numbers back from the county, and I'm happy to report that our percentage of appeals / overall, what they call adjustments to things, we were at a 10-year low of our percentage of, compared to the county as a whole. So the people, what that means is basically that the number of people that either appealed and had adjustments were granted, or that we had made adjustments during the 30-day period compared to the percentage of appeals for the whole county as a whole, our numbers were at a 10-year low, which is kind of something we're proud of because our new system and the work we did with assessments seemed to result in assessments that people were more comfortable with. Because again, typically we were a much higher number than that. So anyway, I don't want to take up the whole time. I
Thank
know you
you.
guys got a lot to do.
You blew a hole in my 1-minute meeting tonight, but that's
I
okay.
apologize.
I have one comment. I know in some of the agencies I've been involved in, Greg, if you see that there's an enormous amount of intake, that a lot of agencies have shifted their flex time to people working earlier, later, including Saturdays, so you have the ability to move around that.
So you spread it out
Yeah.
more.
So I'm sure you and I could take the 5 in the morning shift and start.
And you know what? The seniors will be here.
There you
They
go.
find out you open at 5 o'clock.
They'll be here at 4:30.
And you are early. You remember that from when we talked in the past. Thank you. I appreciate your help. Thanks.
All right, back to the regular agenda. We're on item number 6. I'll make a motion to approve the trustee audit of bills and claims as presented.
I will second that motion.
Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Number 7, I will make a motion to approve applying for the 2020 State of Illinois Fast Track Public Infrastructure Program. Can I get a second?
Second.
This was announced Tuesday, late Tuesday, that they're breaking off some separate funds for a fast track infrastructure grant funding opportunity. And while it seems like it's designed for some other projects that are elsewhere in the state, because of the timing of our project, we kind of have a reasonably good alignment of moons so that we can apply for this project. And it's still a long shot to get an approval, but I think it's worth doing. We're going to apply for $2.2 million in fast track grant funding, and we'll see how this goes. As part of the application process, they have a specific resolution that they want the board to approve. This commits at least some of our previously committed funds to supplement the grant request. And how the scoring process works out, by applying $552,000 of our existing capital projects fund to this grant fund as our part of the funding, it gets over the 20% thresholds and accumulates some points on a scoring grid. So what resolution 0521-2020-1 says, and I sent a copy out to everybody, and of course neglected the township attorney, is whereas the Downers Grove Township Board of Trustees of the County of DuPage, Illinois has taken previous action to approve construction and funding of a township multi-use senior center, a building dedicated to human and social services and featuring a food and clothing pantry, as well as Meals on Wheels prep kitchen that is also a feeding location with vegetable gardens, a STEM research prairie, additional parking, stormwater storage, and other features for the benefit of township citizens, most notably the aged and in need. And whereas the Downers Grove Township Board of Trustees of the County of DuPage, Illinois has taken action to submit a Rebuild Illinois Competitive Public Infrastructure application, and whereas the receipt of the Rebuild Illinois grant assistance is essential to assist Downers Grove Township to undertake the project to build the Township Multipurpose Senior Center, and whereas criteria are such that financial participation by the grantee is required in conjunction with Rebuild Illinois funds, and whereas Downers Grove Township has certain monies allocated for the above referenced project with cash on hand as needed, now therefore be it resolved that the Downers Grove Township of DuPage County does hereby commit funds from the Capital Projects Fund for use in conjunction with a Rebuild Illinois Public Infrastructure Grant, such funds to equal 20% of the estimated project cost of $2,752,232 or $522,232, and then pass and approve tonight. And that leaves $2.2 million as the grant request. Now, the dollar amount is based on the original engineer's estimate. That's where we came up with that, and includes his contract as part of the non-state funds for acting as owner representative. So that's part of the motion to approve applying for the grant program.
Can I ask you a question or two?
Yes, you can.
The 2,752, 2,752,000, is that the budget
Can
amount?
you ask him to speak louder? I can't.
Is that the
Speak
budget
louder.
amount that we have for this, that has been in our public records up to now?
That represents the bid packet, engineer's estimate, and then the contract that we sign for the owner's representation by the engineer and the architect overseeing the project on our behalf.
So that's the 2.4 million plus the Downers Grove Village monies that you have a commitment from them, but it's from their
Redevelopment, it's part of the redevelopment agreement with TIF district dollars.
Right.
It also reflects, make sure I get this straight. It does not reflect monies that have been raised by the Friends for Downers Grove Township Seniors, which is a 501c3 that supports the township. It does not reflect funds that have been raised by Fish Food Pantry for their own purposes for supplying it.
So
But it does include the RDA money.
So what I'm getting to is the board shouldn't be confused and think that your full out money for this project out of pocket Downers Grove Township is 2.7 million. It is 2.4 million on your public record books,
Mhm.
plus you have funds from other places. The board should understand that.
Yeah.
That this resolution, it doesn't say, it doesn't say anything about that relationship with monies in this board.
That's correct.
Okay, it's a tool for getting a grant,
Correct.
not a plan for spending township monies.
No, that was in the, part of that is tied into the resolution to build the center. Most of that was tied into the public hearings that we had in the budget years that funded the Capital Projects Fund, which was this year, the 2020 year, and then previously created the Capital Projects Fund and initially funded it, which was in 2019. And then we also have to include the public hearing minutes and notices for those meetings in the application packet.
I'm just getting to the memory, the public memory of how much money we're spending, and we were pledging $2.4 million when we said we were gonna sign the deal with that engineering company, that construction company. What was the name of it again?
E.P. Doyle.
E.P. Doyle.
We know.
We said we would be spending 2.4 and change.
Yes.
And everybody ought to know that that's the number that you got the board's approval for.
Yes.
As of now.
Or less, and we've had
Or
some very
less.
productive meetings, but we had to have them under contract before we could have meetings that were, I call them negative change orders.
I understand, I just want everybody to know what we're doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll open it for discussion. Any questions?
I have a question.
We need a motion first?
You're
I made the
saying-
motion.
You need a second?
Yeah, I need a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, now we'll open it for discussion.
Okay, you're saying 2.7 million and you're adding the TIF funds from the Downers Grove Village to the 2.4?
Correct.
Is that number 2.7 coming? Because I always thought the building was 2.4 and then there would be a a rebate once the
Yes,
building was
the
completed.
contract was signed for 2448, right.
Pardon?
The contract was signed for $2,448,000. The RDA agreement will reimburse us for up to $275,000 of stormwater and public right-of-way related costs. They also are crediting us $21,000 and change on our fees, and I forget what else is in there. But primarily, what this number represents is when we put the project out to bid, we put it out with an engineer estimate. The engineer estimate was 2.6 million and change, and then 129 million, or 129,000 for the engineer and architect to act as the owner's representatives to make sure that the general contractor built the project exactly as we had specified that it be built. So this number, in essence, represents the 2.7, the engineer's estimate of the project, plus the cost of the contract for the engineer and the architect to act as owner's representatives.
Okay. And
Now-
then I have a question about this money that we have to give to the state for this fast track.
We're not giving any money to the state for a fast track. What we're doing is we're showing that we're willing to spend up to a little over 20% of the capital projects fund along with their grant money
Oh, I got you, okay.
to show that we have funds and we're serious about doing it.
Okay.
And if we get past the 20% threshold, when they grade out grants, they actually have a point system for grading grants. And by getting above that 20% threshold, we pick up a couple points on the grant application.
Okay, that was a little confusing. I thought we had to like hand them that kind of money and when we get back, we can get part of this grant, so that's not the case.
Yeah, no, I
just want to
think,
clarify
I
something.
think part of that is so that they encourage people not to just ask for everything,
Okay, all right.
to show they're serious. And we're serious because we're most of the way down the road. We have the permit application, we're down to some very minor items before they issue the permits. We still are looking at starting work June 1st, which is good. All the subcontractors have been lined up. We have a rough estimate that we'll be putting through the balance of this year, about 104, 103 people to work, building the project in the varying differing aspects. That also is a point score for the grant process. How many people we're putting to work. How close we are, they call it a shovel-ready project. How close are we to ready to go? And we're a week away from ready to go. That actually gets more points than a project that's just, oh, we're thinking about this, maybe we'll have an engineer do a site study. We've already done that, all that stuff is in the barn already. So,
I'm thinking that there might not be as many as we might expect because a lot of people aren't building or aren't doing any construction. A lot of the, like Township, they have stopped all capital projects, so.
Downsville Village.
hopefully we might-
Downers Grove Village, yeah. The fast track portion of this project is open until June 15th.
Okay,
So, time is of the essence. I've been spending 12 hours a day wading through the grant process and the required spreadsheets. And, stuff like this, and a summary of what we've done, and project analysis. Those are all additions to the grant packet that have to be included that we're working on right now. Any other questions? Art?
I think this is a wonderful opportunity to go after money that is potentially wonderfully sourced in the project that we have going on. Many times I see money that comes forward and a shelf project is thrown at the money in order to attach it. This is one that's been vetted for a year, and we have close to our heart for the seniors and for the food baskets. I mean, one needs only to look at what's happened in the last 2 months with the unemployment going through the ceiling, and many of those jobs will not be replaced. There's people migrating from the city to get back into the suburbs, to get away from the density of the city, afraid of the virus. which is just going to add to the need for our food pantry feature that's in this building. So for the people that oversee this money, I can't think of a better scoring than this right now for dollars to be spent into this. You could take the infrastructure and you could build a bridge, you could build an administrative building, it puts all those people to work. But you can't have people working that haven't had something to eat. So in my mind, this is a perfect match for this money to try and go after this and source it here into the township. So I'm completely supportive of this. My question would be on this is the timing of the set aside. It's a brand new project. I know just like a lot of the other government programs that are rolling out, they kind of make up the rules as they go along after they come up with a great idea and have the funding source. What's the timing on this? You mentioned, I think, June 15th?
Yeah, the fast track monies are available until June 15th. They are taking applications in order, first come, first serve, and then scoring them.
Okay, so the scoring, what's the timing then of them actually funding this type of a project?
If I can get the paperwork done for this, say tomorrow, if everything works out in a perfect world, and I can send it in end of day tomorrow. Next week, they'll take a look at it, they'll score it, and then they'll advise us whether we qualify for the grant or not.
And the timing of the legislature, I mean,
It's very fast.
they're adjourned, I mean.
That's why, I mean, this is,
How does this work?
I have no idea how.
yeah, this is like $25 million that was carved out separate from the infrastructure program, which is hundreds of millions of dollars, because they want to get stuff going now.
Okay,
So
so,
I think a good question would be, if you won the grant next Monday, Tuesday, when could you be assured of getting funds to put it into your plan, the budget, or is this another 6 months wait for those funds? Do you have any idea about that?
I have no idea what the lag time will be on the state of Illinois payments.
Okay.
I have my suspicions,
well, typically.
but this is grant money this is infrastructure money that is specifically set aside for infrastructure projects.
Yeah, typically on a draw request, when you have a project moving forward, you're funding it yourself.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, when you're approved, it reimburses you for the money that you spent so far. And this resolution would be the starting point, like a bond inducement resolution, the way I would look at this.
Now,
So,
we set up our contract with Doyle where we will be submitting bills on a monthly basis. Our owner reps will be vetting them to make sure that they're legitimate and copacetic. So we'll be submitting bills for audit on a monthly basis, and then taking those bills and say we got an approval. We won the lottery and got the approval, we would submit those bills each and every month for reimbursement.
Right, so your engineers will vet the bills from the contractor and present those vetted bills to the township for approval.
Correct,
And you at this board will approve them when you have board
as
meetings.
part of the audit packet.
Right, where you'll have some certification from the engineers.
with lien releases. With lien releases.
With lien releases, yeah.
Okay. So then, this set aside of the 522,000, if we find out that we were unsuccessful in getting this, we've just reversed this out.
Yeah, and this is
Just keep
how much
going.
we're willing to throw in,
Yeah.
Right,
and how much we can put in.
okay.
We'll see I figure it can't hurt, it's burned up a week on me, but,
Yeah, to
so what?
To our point, I think that was my concern, that we all knew what we were doing.
Yeah,
If we don't get it, we still move forward with the monies that we have.
Right.
yeah. Well, and keep in mind, this is almost 3 days old now. So, I mean, this is very recent.
And it's first come, first served.
Yes. So speed is of the essence.
Okay.
Any other questions? Abby? Dave? Whoop, looks like Dave has muted himself. Unmute.
No, I'm unmuted.
Oh, okay. Any other questions from anyone?
No, sir.
Okay, Clerk Grimsby, can you call the roll on this one?
Trustee Donner?
Aye.
Trustee Ferguson?
Aye.
Trustee Kelly?
Aye.
Trustee Vanderline?
Aye.
Supervisor Tony?
Aye, motion with resolution passes 5-0, thank you. We pretty much accidentally covered the supervisor's report of what I've been doing. I just piggyback on what Assessor Bolt said. We'll be looking to go back to regular hours starting next week. We're looking for the Illinois General Assembly to make positive actions on getting Illinois moving forward again. And we are currently following the County Human Services Department's lead on walk-in traffic and appointments. They are not open to walk-in traffic and they are not doing appointments. They're currently they sent an email out that they're working on a ramp-up plan to again open. So we're a little different. Assessor Bolts is following what the other assessors have been talking about, potentially what the clerk and the treasurer might be doing. Because I know, and because Highway Department is kind of following the lead of county zoning also. So we're all, grinding our teeth. I chipped a tooth. I've been grinding my teeth, but we've been observing social spacing in here. Nobody has gotten sick. Hopefully, knock on wood. And when I look at the stats for DuPage County, it looks like we're over the hump as far as the worst of the pandemic in DuPage County. All the curves are in the right direction and everything's looking like a nice bell curve. So we'll be looking for some positive action from the governor and from the legislature over the next 30 to 60 days to get us all back up to speed. Move on to item 9. Is there any old business? Seeing none, I'll move to item 10. Is there any new business?
Yes, I have something. Good evening. This is Trustee Karen Kelly. Supervisor Tillman, I have a request to make regarding the Township Center, tracking the expenses relating to the building. I would like to ask or have a document made available to all the trustees, such as an Excel spreadsheet that lists all the draw requests and also all pre-construction operating costs relating to the Township Center. That could include even things that credits that might be coming our way. This would allow the trustees to be more informed of the ongoing costs of the building expenses in one place. We get, little tidbits here and there, just as like we were talking about this motion for the fast track.
Yeah.
I recommend that this document responsibility is assigned to our outside auditors and then provided to you and the trustees monthly, or even more often if needed as expenses increase during the construction. And that would also cover any kind of change orders so we're aware of them before as they happen. I also have a question. In last month's expense payments, there was an invoice for the removal of several trees that were located on the empty lot.
By Mike's, right.
Help me understand, that invoice was paid from the Township General Fund and not as a Township Center expense.
Correct.
I'd like to ask the other trustees to share their thoughts or input regarding this request.
Well, I think a spreadsheet, I think some simple document like that would be very helpful for everyone to see. I mean, it's not a difficult request. I mean, it's likely something that you would already be doing, but to see it on a more regular basis than rather trying to come up with things on our own and put them in place gets difficult. So I would appreciate that as well.
Now, we currently, so there would be, the monthly billing would be presented in the audits. And usually a month after, we present the report for each fund, including the capital projects fund, that shows the draws against the monthly expenses, the budget, and how that relates to the monthly expenses and the entire fund. We do that for the general fund, let's see, for the administration, assessor, human services, IMRF, and general assistance currently. And typically we send those reports out to you. They have 4 or 5 columns of figures, and they have the budget categories. So
That's what I'm asking. I'm asking for a report that specifically, styles all the expense relating to the new building.
Yeah.
You know?
No, that's part of the budget sheets that we send out on a monthly basis, Art.
Well, I could add to that. What's going to happen is that we mentioned about the certification process from the outside engineers and so forth. There's going to be a draw request form.
Correct.
On the draw request form, it's going to be listing the total budget that you have on the project. And
Mhm.
each one of the populated lines have to be filled in as the project goes forward.
Yeah.
So I think that the Excel spreadsheet makes sense to go ahead and do that. And we would have to use that draw request as the basis, because it's certified, we're paying an outside person to oversee that.
Correct.
To use that as the basis for the spreadsheet. One thing that, this thought about doing this, some of the expenses probably have run into the prior fiscal year. And they were in some of the other fund balances because they were really feasibility type items, and we can't attach it to the project because it's in the prior year's certain fund balances. I don't know if it was taken out of the capital. So I think that there has to be a marriage of a couple of years in order to make that spreadsheet comprehensive in the way the spreadsheet that Abby and Karen are mentioning. So
Mhm.
I agree with that.
And there are some things that are, I guess, call them interesting judgment calls, like the old parking lot, the current existing north side parking lot. Part of the, what we asked for a price on from the bidders was to scrape micro slurry and restripe that parking lot. That's one where we decided to include that in the project rather than as a separate building maintenance cost. So some of the stuff, we look at it and go like Mike coming in and cutting down the trees. Well, 5 of the 7 trees were already dead or dying. And regardless of whether there was a project there or not, they had to go. So I called up Mike, I had him come over and take them out.
Like, but we didn't, that wasn't communicated to us until just this second. So I think that's something that she's trying to beat on future expenses.
Okay, I get that, but understand from my point of view, having trees that are dead and dying taken out is not a big deal. We do that all the time at the cemetery.
Now, nobody's disagreeing with that, it's just the fact they were taken out, it was the empty lot that they were taken from, so shouldn't that be the cost relating to the building itself rather than the general fund?
Not necessarily. And that's, again, that's a judgment call. When I get the bill, I decide where to put it as far as category goes. And again, taking out trees that are dead and they're gonna come out anyway.
And Karen, as the architect for the signing off on the audit last month, when that came up, I did ask Mark what happened with that, and I don't remember specifically his explanation, but generically, I do remember there was a reasonable explanation for why those trees were there. I don't know if you remember that, Mark.
Mhm.
When I was signing off, I asked about those trees, so it seemed reasonable at that time.
Good enough.
Yeah, but you guys will get those reports. And if you want me to make up another spreadsheet, you know I have no problem putting together spreadsheets. That's not an issue.
I would ask that someone from the auditor's office can do it, so we can they know how to do them and they could do it for us. You have plenty on your plate, so why don't we just use them and have them take care of it?
You got Sundays open, you could do it then.
And you're a CPA, Art.
Yeah, well, I'll help.
Truly, Karen, it's not, we already create the reports on a monthly basis for all the other funds. So it's not a big deal.
Building, so that's what I'm asking for. And I think Abby's supporting that, and so is our Donner, so Dave, I don't know what your position is. Is that mute again?
No, I'm not muted, this is not something about which I feel strongly.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other new business?
right here.
Art?
Okay, we've just had an enormous amount of rainfall, and I'm wondering if we have enormous amount of extra costs that we might have incurred during this event? Has there been enormous amount of overtime? Do we need to be concerned with anything there on the stormwater management side?
I haven't heard-
Infrastructure or anything with the enormous amount of rain? Has anyone,
Yeah, I haven't heard anything back from Andy.
do we have
as
any
far-
casualties out there or anything? I normally get calls on that, so I'm just wondering, I didn't get any yet, so.
I haven't got any calls from Randy either.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering if we finally have it right, that, you know, the water's moving in the right direction, I don't know.
I got a picture from John Curcio out at Timber Lakes of a cul-de-sac that had several inches of water on the pavement and in the front yard right-of-ways, and that was it.
Well, I
And I
know Bruce
said-
Lake, I've always had some calls from my Bruce Lake folks down there.
Oh,
Yeah,
So I wanna make sure that whatever needs to
and
be
the
done.
usual culprit places were flooded,
Okay.
no question about that. I will point out that the property next door was basically dry,
Oh, good.
no standing water, so, okay.
And one more thing, Mark, would you kind of like just do a quick recap in regards to the food pantry and the last two giveaways with the food, because that was a great, sounded like a really good success.
Yeah, we, with the DuPage Senior Citizens Council, we staged two separate events separate from the food pantry. We'll talk about the food pantry in just a second, but first event, we gave away 145 packs of frozen food to senior citizens aged 60 or older, so 700 meals. We did it again a week and a half ago, and we gave away 210 5-packs of frozen food, so over 1,000 frozen meals. And they're not bad, they're made by a caterer, they're not like a Swanson frozen food. We're gonna try to do this again in June, towards the end of the month, so we can, because I did have one phone call from a township area church that said, you know, if we would have known about that in time, I've got a couple of family, senior citizen couples that would have taken advantage of it if they had known. So one of the things that we're gonna do in addition to the normal, get the word out, is also contact the churches that are in the township and say, look, you know anybody that doesn't get online, doesn't get on computer and might benefit from this, and let us know and have them call us and we'll get the sign-up information for them and we'll see if we can increase it again.
And there's no requirement about income, this is anybody that's.
Just gotta be 60 or older, yeah. I mean, because it's hard for senior citizens to get out and do shopping under the situation as it exists right now. So, you know, it's easy, but it's easy for them to drive up, we check off their name, they roll down their window, we put food, fruit packs and water in the back of their car and off they go. It's like a drive-through operation. Now the fish, food and clothing pantry it's been very gratifying. They're doing an excess of 35 cars coming through. Most of the volunteers for the fish, food and clothing pantry themselves are seniors, are high-risk seniors, so they're operating with a very reduced cast of volunteers, and they've done a superb job. And they come in and pack meals during the week, and they give them away on Mondays. And we have been getting great, terrific support from the area, both in terms of food drives, collecting food for the food pantry, and also financial donations to the food pantry, because the food supply chain is really still kind of screwed up, and most of the food pantries are having trouble getting staples like milk and bread and some meats. And so the fish food pantry is basically going out and buying this stuff instead of getting it through the Northern Illinois Food Bank. They're operating in fits and starts and on a reduced staffing also. And so it's very gratifying, the support that the fish food and clothing pantry has been getting from the community, both in terms of food and financial support. So that's kind of good, a couple of things of good news in tough times. Anything else? With that, I will make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, nobody wants to stick around. It passes unanimously. Our next regular township board meeting will be Thursday, June 18th, 2020. And someday we'll have an annual town meeting for the clerk. and we'll keep you posted on that. Have a good evening, thank you.